We're already 4 weeks through the NFL season, almost a quarter of the way finished. And today I just wanted to talk about the top storylines, in my opinion, of the season so far. If there's anything you think I missed or should have gone over, just let me know down in the comments below, and I hope you enjoy. First, I want to talk about CJ Stroud and this Houston Texans team. I thought this Texans team was going to be the worst in the league. Their roster was not that good. It's still not that great. And I also thought this was the worst situation for the rookie quarterbacks out of the three. And by that I mean Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and CJ Stroud. I thought Bryce Young went to the best situation. Because I thought the Panthers had vets and players that have been doing it for a while. I thought their defense was the best out of the three teams. And then I thought Anthony Richardson was second best. I liked the coach in Steichen. I assumed Jonathan Taylor was going to be there for him, but he's not, so that kind of makes it a little tougher. And then CJ Stroud, this Texans team was bad. He inherited a really bad team. I thought the defense was going to be better than they were last year, just with the addition of Will Anderson and D'Amico Ryans. But CJ Stroud's been lighting it up. He is a big reason as to why they already have 2 wins on the season. He's making, I don't want to say he's making it, because at the end of the day, the players, like the receivers and the linemen, they also have to play. So it doesn't just go on CJ Stroud, but his receivers are Tank Dell, and Nico Collins and Robert Woods. Like that doesn't rank very high in the NFL for receiving cores. But it looks great so far. They're 2-2, which is 2 more wins than I thought they'd have. CJ Stroud's got a 62.3 completion percentage. He's already got 1,200 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, and no interceptions. I'm pretty sure he just broke the all-time record for most attempts without a completion start a career. I think he blew that out the water. He's like second all-time in pass yards in first 4 starts. I know he has fumbles that he's given up, so it's not like he's turnover-free, but still, he's playing incredible right now. He's got a 100.6 QB rating and QBR 57.5. Yards per game is 303, which is absolutely insane. Right now, CJ Stroud is 4th in the NFL in pass yards, only behind Tua, Matt Stafford, and Kirk Cousins. And he's within 20 yards of second and third place. His completion percentage is 25th, but he's getting better as the weeks go on. And I just wanted to highlight CJ Stroud. I think he's being played incredible. He was the second quarterback taken. I honestly thought he wasn't going to be that great just because of his rushing ability isn't that good, and I just think that's really important in today's game. But he's looked phenomenal passing the ball. I'm shocked by this team. D'Amico Ryans is doing a hell of a job. I just think the Texans are better than what they expected to be, and that AFC South is wide open. I know the Jags were sort of the locks to win it. The Jags have not looked great. I know they just smacked Falcons. Falcons are kind of falling off. But the way the Texans are playing, and they already beat the Jags. Right now, I think the Texans are in first in the South. I don't know the exact standings. They're going to be competing in the South, I think, this season. And I just think that's great for CJ Stroud and the Texans. The next storyline I want to talk about is the disaster that is the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields. Now, before anybody says anything, I know it's not 100% on Justin Fields. When your team's 0-4, it's never 100% on somebody. There's 22 people, starters on the team, whatever you want to go, special teams. There's still 10 other guys on the field. And if one of them doesn't do their job, the play can turn into a disaster fast. But Fields is the quarterback, so he's going to get majority of the blame. He's completing 64% of his passes. He just had a career day yesterday, going over 300 yards passing. He's got 861 yards on the season. 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. Like I said, he's completing 64%. He's got 7 total touchdowns. I know he had a career day yesterday. The team's bad. Like this team, I know there's a lot of hype going into the season because of their free agency. I think they spent the most money. They spent a ton of money in free agency. I know they brought in a couple of linebackers like TJ Edwards and Edmonds, I believe. They traded the first overall pick for DJ, or they traded it and they got DJ Moore and other picks as well, which is pretty much the only optimism I have for this team is those picks, but I'll get to those in a sec. Besides DJ Moore, they really don't have anything else. They drafted Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, which I think was good at the time. I know I said it was a pretty good pick at the time. They passed on Jalen Carter, who's probably going to win defensive rookie of the year. Even with Jalen Carter, they still wouldn't have won a game probably, just because there's more than one fix for this team. I would assume Eberflus is going to get fired after this season. if I'm the Bears, you got to restart. It's like a disease on that team. They haven't won a game. I think they've lost their last 14 NFL games, which is insane. Also, it doesn't help Fields' case. If they do, like if he gets injured, they're not going to rush him back. And for his sake, they have 2 first-round picks, one from themselves and the Panthers. And right now, the Panthers are winless. I'm going to get to them in a bit. But the Panthers with Bryce Young, I know he's been injured. They're winless. They don't have a win yet. They're 0-4. So right now, the Chicago Bears have the first and the second overall pick. Now, I don't know if that's going to stay, but if that stays, you got to get rid of Fields. You got to take Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. and just restart, fire Eberflus, just get a whole new regime. You could probably trade Fields. Fields is most likely going to have some decent value just because of his raw talent and ability, especially running the football. And like I said, it's not Fields' fault. If Fields was on, say, the 49ers, I guarantee he'd at least one win. So it's not like he's the sole reason this team is 0-4. They did give up, I think they're up 28-7 on the Broncos yesterday, and they gave that up. But their defense has been terrible. They don't have any good defensive linemen. Their linebackers are decent. They don't have a really good secondary at all. It's just a disaster of a team. And I don't know. I'm excited to see, how bad it can really get. 'Cause, if they're like 0-7, they're going to look into trading Fields. If they're 0-7, his value is only going to decrease as the season goes on, especially if you finish like 2-15. His value is going to be lower than it is now. So if they start 0-7, that trade deadline is creeping up. I think there's a good chance they might shop Fields, just tank for the year and take Caleb Williams. The next storyline that I feel like I have to talk about is Joe Burrow and the Bengals. This is the most shocking start to the season out of any team, I think. They're starting 1-3. They barely beat the Rams, which Joe Burrow did not look good in that game either. And they just got absolutely clobbered by the Tennessee Titans, like 28-7, I think it was, 28-3, 27-3, something like that. Once again, if a team's this bad, it's not all on one person, but it's hard to not look at Joe Burrow's way when he's having this terrible of a season and he's getting paid all that money. And it's different. Like, I know Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, they're 1-3, but Kirk's looking good. So it's not all on Kirk. A lot of it's on the defense, the lack of running game. Where the Bengals, a lot of it's on Joe. He doesn't look good at all. I know that everybody saw that interview with not Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, who said he's always open, yada yada after the game. But Joe Burrow right now, they're 1-3. Burrow's completing under 58% of his passes. He has 728 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Not a lot of interceptions, but not a lot of touchdowns. His long's 43. His QB rating is 69, where if you remember, I just said CJ Stroud's was 100. Joe Burrow's is 69, and his QBR is 33.7. Sacked 8 times. He's just not having himself a good year at all. Joe Mixon's having a pretty decent year, I guess. 4.2 yard average. 247 yards, only 1 touchdown. It's not special. Jamar Chase had a really slow start to the season. He's got 41 targets, 29 catches, 284 yards, 0 touchdowns so far for Jamar Chase in 4 games. And only 70% catch percentage. And even T. Higgins starting this season off really slow as well. 32 targets, only 12 catches on 32 targets for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns. They were all in the half. I think 2 weeks ago in week 2. And he is a 37.5 catch percentage. Once again, it's not like he's dropping it's not like he's dropping 20 passes. It's just missed throws or defenders are, breaking it up, or he's dropping it. And then Tyler Boyd, he's their 3rd receiver, so it's not like he's going to be going off, but he's doing just as well. He's doing better than T. Higgins right now. And Irv Smith, I honestly thought Irv Smith was going to have a really big role in this offense. I actually thought he was pretty good for the Vikings. I don't think he's that bad, but he has been injured. He's only played 2 games. He only had 9 targets, 5 catches, 27 yards. If we look on the defense, they only have two interceptions and 2 fumble recoveries, so they only have 4 takeaways. They do have 12 sacks. So Trey Hendrickson, who's their best pass rusher, he's getting the quarterback. He's got 3.5 sacks. Sam Hubbard's got 2 himself. DJ Reader's got a couple or 1. So it's not like they're not creating pressure. Their offense looks bad. The defense did let the Titans score 28, but when your offense, this is the thing, when your offense can't put drives together and your defense is out there for extended periods of time, they're going to get tired and they're not going to be able to defend and keep up with the opposing team's offense. So if you're just getting 3 and outs on offense, you're putting your defense in a really bad situation. And on top of that, if they let up, say, 2 touchdowns, they're already down 14-0, and their offense continues to not be able to score. It's demoralizing. I think it starts with Joe Burrow. He's not having a good year. I know the Bengals usually don't start off well. We've seen this the last couple of years. But 1-3 is concerning. Joe Burrow's play looks concerning. They can't lose next week. They play the Cardinals. So this is a get-right game for them, because after this game, it is murder's row. They play the Cardinals, then they play the Seahawks. They have a bye, and then they play the 49ers, the Buffalo Bills, the Texans, the Ravens. So you got a tough stretch of games here. You can't go into that bye week with only 1 win. You got to win these next 2 against the Cardinals and Seahawks. And then you can reevaluate your season. The next story I want to talk about is the Carolina Panthers. I thought this Panthers team was going to be pretty decent. I liked their offseason acquisitions at the time. I thought Bryce Young was the right number 1 overall pick. They traded up a lot to get to him, including their first round pick this year that they're not going to have. And so far with Bryce Young, they're 0-3. He's got a 65 completion percentage, 500 passing yards in 3 games, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. His QB rating is 65, QBR is 25, and that's only in 3 games. Andy Dalton did play a game. He had a ton of yards, but his completion percentage was under 59%. He had 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So he had himself a good game. To the Seahawks, but their defense absolutely got destroyed that game, giving up like 37 points, I believe it was. Miles Sanders, their leading rusher, has a 2.9 yards per attempt, which is awful. He's got 54 carries for 158 yards, 1 touchdown. Their backup running back's not doing that well either, and he's actually getting a lot of carries. He's got a little more than half the carries Sanders does. He's got a 4.6 yard average. Their receivers include Laviska Shenault, Adam Thielen, and Terrace Marshall, which is just not a good receiving core. Laviska Shenault's started 0 games. He's only had 4 targets, so he's not doing too well. He's not really getting involved. But Adam Thielen, who I know he's in his 30s. I don't want to guess how old he is. It's not really important, but he is an older receiver. It's not the best number 1 overall receiver for a rookie quarterback. I would have preferred they don't give up DJ Moore, because I think he would have worked really well with Bryce Young in this. Adam Thielen's got 33 targets, 27 catches, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a monster game with Andy Dalton in a quarterback. But besides that, Terrace Marshall's only got 100 yards on 16 catches. Hayden Hurst, the tight end's got 10 catches, 79 yards. I don't know, it's not ideal. I guess a lot of it's the offensive line. They don't have a really good offensive line. They're below average pretty much everywhere. Their defense I also thought was going to be a lot better. I know J.C. Horn's out, so he's second or third best defender on that team. So that makes it really tough with a rookie quarterback. Brian Burns is still playing pretty good. He's got a forced fumble, 3 sacks, 4 games. He's got 14 tackles, 5 QB hits. He's their best defensive player. Derek Brown's having a pretty good season as well. I do like their defensive front. It's their secondary without J.C. Horn's tough. Jeremy Chinn's pretty good. I actually do really like Jeremy Chin a lot, but he's still a safety. Your corners are more important than safeties, and they just don't have the corners. I know they got like C.J. Henderson, who's all right, I guess. Dante Jackson. I don't know. The Panthers are not setting themselves up for a good future. You traded everything up to go to the first overall to select Bryce Young, but you gave up your best weapon for him. And then you gave up this year's first overall pick. And so far, your projected first or second overall pick. And to not have that is going to be awful, especially with your aging players. Your offense, Miles Sanders is on his 2nd contract. I know he's not old for NFL in general, but for running back, he's in his mid-20s. He's probably not going to get another contract, but you're paying him a decent amount. You're paying Miles Sanders $8 million a year. Andy Dalton, Adam Thielen's up there in age. Not having that first round pick's tough. That means you got to go into free agency or the trade deadline, and you're going to have to pay a wide receiver because you got to invest in that position with Bryce Young. That's only going to help him, especially at this early stage in his career when he's developing. You got to invest in wide receivers. And not having that first round pick eliminates your ability to draft one and have them on a cheap rookie deal. So, you have to invest a lot of money in there. And while you're not paying your quarterback a ton on the salary cap, now is the time to do that. I don't know which wide receivers are going to be free agents this offseason. That's got to be your plan going into it, is you got to outbid everybody for whoever that top wide receiver free agent is. I don't know, I'm just not the biggest fan of the future of the Falcons or the Panthers, especially in the division. I think it was wide open this season. I know the Bucs are leading it now, but they're no juggernaut. I think you had a chance to win it, but they just didn't construct this roster really well. Injuries are kind of hurting them. It's going to be a big offseason. You got to try to win some games. Try not to give the Bears the second overall pick and the first, but you got to get something out of Bryce Young. You've got to see progression. You got to see him get better, make better reads. But I'll be excited to watch them. I'm going to be watching the Panthers all season, so I'm excited to see what they can do. But those are going to be my 4 storylines so far in the season that have shocked me or that I think have been the most standout. Once again, if there's something you think I missed or should have spoke about, just let me know down in the comments below. And I will see you tomorrow for my Sunday review.